All right, we're sorry about that. I had a phone call coming in that cut me off. So back to market approaches. What these companies do, okay, Ford, GM, Chrysler, Toyota, Honda motorcycles, Suzuki, Fender guitars, Gibson guitars. They create their products to fill particular voids in a perceptual map of the market. So they create entry-level product, they got a mid-level product, they usually have a high-end product. All right, so take a look at like Ford. That's something we're talking about on the discussion board. So Ford has a Focus product. They used to have a Ranger. They've had a Escort and a Pinto going way back into the day. All right, these were entry-level, cheap and cheaper cars. They were made cheap. They sold cheap, and they were made for entry-level people. GM did the same thing. Okay, had entry-level vehicles. Chevy had a vehicle called a Cavalier that competed against the Ford Escort, and that was an entry-level product, 80s, 90s, that was cheap and cheaper. Okay, they got mid-level cars, mid-level trucks, entry-level trucks. They got higher-end product. So when I say that these companies are coming in at all different levels, what I'm trying to say is they create products on all levels, and it is focused in a way, okay, because they know what buyer market they want to go after. Think about your advertising. Okay, they will create an advertising campaign that's got a particular focus and an emphasis. All right, and you can see it when you watch it. So that's what I'm talking about when I say these larger companies will compete and approach the market on all levels, focused and broad. Okay, lower price up to high price to exotic. Look at the exotic products out of Ford with the Mustang. They got an F1. Can't remember the actual name of that vehicle now. It's, I think, the McLaren F1, but I think that vehicle's going at hundreds of thousands, right? The Corvettes. Ford's got an exotic high-speed car. So does GM. Pretty awesome. Chrysler's had a couple of them for a couple years now. What's the point? Well, they're servicing every level of the market that's out there. And as I put in the discussion board, it's not only just for personal use. They create commercial vehicles, agricultural vehicles, government vehicles. The government vehicles are like your police cars, government official vehicles, things like that. Okay? So it's important that you understand how companies will approach the market, and the larger you are, the more you can afford to hit them at every angle. Now, I told most of you, I think, know I have a restaurant. I own a restaurant. Been trying to sell it for a bit now. We're hitting the market in that restaurant at every angle, from low priced all-you-can-eat spaghetti on certain nights to $25, $29 entrees on a Saturday night. So it's doing the same thing. It's got a little bit of everything for everybody, and pretty much most restaurants, unless they're corporate and they're designed like B-dubs are not doing that. But a lot of, like your Applebee's, companies like that, they'll always have something in there pretty much for everybody, and we're doing the same thing. Okay, so we're entering the market the same way. Okay, let's talk about pizza for a second. One company that doesn't hit all these markets would be what? Little Caesars, right? These guys are cheap and cheaper, and that's where they're staying, and that's what they want. They want high volume, low price pizza. That's their whole strategy. Papa John's different, Jets is different, Domino's is different. These guys are low price, pretty much no matter what you get. And all they want to do is keep piling on low price product, and the more they can give you at a low price, the better, as they run those ticket prices up. Okay, a little bit about that. Okay, so Jax the Husky over there is letting me know that he's getting a little bit irritated because I'm on the phone. So related versus unrelated, this was a good conversation that we were having out there too. So there's some true unrelated would be like, I think the example I used was Little Caesars getting into selling massive volumes of some other product completely outside of food altogether. So who knows what that is, but they take their mass manufacturing and stellar value chain skills and they put them to work in some other industry altogether that has nothing to do with food. That's real unrelated. And yeah, it's risky as hell. Risky as hell. But there can be some really good rewards for it, especially if you bootstrap the industry. What I mean by that is if you set your strategy up so that when when the market goes down, another industry will go up. So for example, when the economy softens, education goes through the roof. As soon as the economy gets bad, education always goes up, especially higher education, right? Well, if you're servicing that industry in some way, shape, or form, or any type of training, anything that you're doing in voc ed or higher education, you're going to really hit some good peaks and plateaus during bad economic conditions. Okay, when the economic conditions are great, anything you can think of recreational wise takes off big time, right? So campers, dirt bikes, snowmobiles. Okay, the restaurant industry right now is through the roof. Our sales are up 30% over the last 2 years right now. And it's not because we did anything significantly different, it's because people have money in their pocket and people are hearing good things on the TV, mostly. Okay, so they know that there's jobs out there and they know that people are working and they're hearing good things and they're spending. All right, so it's not that you can't do unrelated, it's that you have to be sensible about it. Okay, so a company like Stryker Medical down in Kalamazoo, it would be interesting for them to get into some semi-unrelated industry or an industry that they can really use their branding in that isn't entirely medical. Okay, is somewhat medical, but maybe something else that's closely related to medical. Who knows? Orthopedic appliances. Maybe they buy somebody down the chain of the orthopedic appliance. Okay, so they buy a producer or manufacturer within that industry or a supplier, raw material supplier. Who knows? That could supply other raw materials to other industries. Plastics companies, raw material plastics companies. It would make a lot of sense for Stryker to do that because some of the materials that they use are so damn expensive. They should just buy them. They're so cash rich. Okay, these are things that become unrelated strategies or semi-unrelated strategies that make sense. But by and large, it makes sense to stay related most of the time because you've already got a name built for yourself and you're using your name to penetrate a market or a market segment. That's why companies are much more inclined to stay related. And not only that, but like you guys had identified on the discussion board, which you did a good job, they have their value chains, their distribution, they have their suppliers all set up. Absolutely correct. Okay, absolutely. They've got that all down. They may have core competencies in processing or technology that they can take advantage of. And it gives them those efficiencies and effective manufacturing foundations to be more profitable than the next guy. So I get that. You're right. Okay. The problem is though, just like in anything else, if we stay, like Under Armour right now has a lot of cash. if they don't diversify, they don't buy, they don't acquisition, they don't merger, they're plateauing right now. They need to gobble up some market share and get some street cred because they're kind of dying. Their products aren't getting developed like they were. They need product development really bad. They need product development as bad as maybe Mr. Trump needs an etiquette class, you know. I'm sorry if I said that out of turn there, but just a bad joke. But the point is that, you know what? Hey, the point of it is that they are softening a lot because they have not done anything amazing when it comes to new products. And I'm not trying to push a political agenda. I read most of Mr. Trump's books. He is a crafty business guy, I'll say that. Okay, so moving on. Executive summary. All right, let's talk about that real quick. Market situation. Hey man, if you're coming to me with, let's just put this into the right perspective for a second. If you're coming to me with the annual or quarterly report and you tell me, hey, we want to buy a company, or maybe it's just the quarterly review and you're giving me a review of your company, okay, or it's a company that you're thinking about acquiring, or that could be acquiring us, okay, that's talking to one of our companies and is potentially interested in acquiring it. When we look at this market situation, we need to understand what pond they're playing in. That pond has a big number to it, the overall number. Now, when it came to Nike, Under Armour, and Adidas, what I was really looking for there was primarily taking those three companies. They are highly concentrated in the footwear industry, right? Fair? And shirts, etc. So I didn't want the entire textile industry in there, but I really wanted those three. And I mean, you could have maybe threw in New Balance or Skechers too. I would have been fine with that too. But the point is that we take their sales and we add them, and we call that, hey, they're part of this market space. It's a SIC code. These four companies equate to about X in billions. And here's how it breaks down by percentage. And here's how it broke down over the last 3 or 4 years. So you give me a trend line. So what do we know about Under Armour? They had some dramatic growth over the last 4 years, but they plateaued and stopped growing, right? Where Nike and Adidas are still huge compared to these guys. Well, it makes sense. I mean, they've been around forever, okay? And they're, I think, offshore, they're still the chosen brand, obviously, right? Well, that's what we want to know. Okay, so we're a small player here among these other two. What are our strengths and weaknesses? What is their strengths and weaknesses? What could be our opportunities? What could be our threats? Let's look at Porter's and how it applies to this particular market space. Is there any leverage anywhere? The only leverage for profit really at this point is going to be primarily based on suppliers. Okay, so are we doing everything we can to get the lowest priced product? I don't know. But if you read their annual reports, they'll tell you a story if you read it, okay? That's one question you might want to ask yourself when it comes to Porter. Is this a market that has low barriers of entry? I mean, how competitive is it? Not really, okay? Because if you look at it, how many new players have come into it in the last 10, 20 years? Not too many. So this is what you want to tell in this paragraph. Hey, this is a market space that has high barriers of entry based on capital and the concentrated competitiveness between the 3 to 4 that are currently in it. Boom. It just tells me right there, all right, so it's not a revolving damn door where people are coming and going like the pizza industry, right? That's not what we're looking at here. Good. That makes me feel better. Well, how can we get market space development?